was reading this time travel series that was recommended by someone I know. And so we were reading the Sarah Woodbury time travel books. And I was having a lot of trouble with them. I was enjoying complaining about them because there's another series and I still have to find it. I'm trying to find it. I've been going through all this stuff. They were time traveling anywhere. Like, oh, let's jump off a cliff, and when we jump off the cliff, we're gonna end up from England to the United States. So not only are we time traveling, but we're also traveling across the Atlantic Ocean. And they were doing it any which way. There was no plan. And they also discovered that they were doing it in an altered timeline. So they could do as much changes to the past as they wanted and not affect their future because apparently they came from an alternate timeline. And I had so many issues with the whole thing. So I put it down. And I picked up a couple of books that I had ordered were delivered. So I decided to take a break and read one of those. So I did Jen McKinley's Hitting the Books, I think. No, Booking for Trouble. I forget. So, yeah, Booking for Trouble. Okay. So anyways, then I decided, and I have a whole pile of to be reads. And I did a to be reads the other day. And I've read a couple of those, and I'm really just, I don't know, I'm in a rut. I'm in a rut situation. So, I decided to go. I went and looked at I'm trying to find a set of books. This one author wrote this one series that I really liked. Not as good as Julie McEwen's. If you haven't read those, you gotta read those. You gotta see my videos on those. But this other author wrote a set of books, and then she wrote another couple of series sort of related to the first set. And I'm trying to find those. And they were time travels. And so I rewatched my own time travel If Them. And then I went back and watched the video on these first two books. And I remembered that I was reading this first book, and this elderly lady had, when she finished, Darcy was like, I think it was Darcy, told Irene, please let Gretchen know that I'm okay. Because Gretchen was her best friend in the world. And Irene gave the message to Gretchen, and Gretchen ended up going back in time herself. And I know it's a long series, and it's a longer series than those couple books. Yes, ma'am. And so I thought I would check another one of those out. So I went, like I said, I went back and watched my two videos on these two books. And I said in the video that I would probably go back and read the next book in the series. And then other stuff came up. I got distracted and I never went back to it. So I decided to go look at book 3. So this is book 3 of the Arch Through Time series by Katy Baker. And it's, oh, hold on a second. So this is Echoes of a Highlander. And I have some issues with this book. Too. I have some issues, and I'm going to go try and find the book I was really looking for but you know, I liked the first two books. They were good. And there's no adult activity in the books. They're clean. And they're really quick read. 2 hours tops. Very short. Very short. So we have Lucy Jennings is our main character, and what you call it? We have Lucy Jennings. She's a musician. She's living with her aunt and uncle, and she's out of work. They want her to get a job, but she wants to be a musician. She plays on street corners. So she's playing on the street corner one day, and this old lady comes up to her. I mean, Macaskill. And I was doing my notes, just a little side note. I was doing some verbal dictation, and I kept saying IRENE, and Google would type IMEAN. I had to go back and fix all those manually. So Irene comes up to her and tells Lucy that she can make all her dreams come true, give her what she's looking for. Lucy's intrigued, and she goes, I'm going to give you this good luck, and you'll know it when it happens. And apparently Lucy had tried out for this big orchestra deal, and she never heard from them. And then so many weeks later, she hears from them and says, we need our first two reserves. Something has happened to them, and they are unable to proceed. Will you be willing to step in? So she steps in, goes to Ireland, and performs in the orchestra, and she's living her dream, and she's really happy she's living her dream. She's still mourning the boyfriend that dumped her months ago. That's like a side thing. But she's loving performing with the orchestra. And then one night, she runs up with Irene, who says, if you go through this arch, you can save someone's life, and you can find what you're looking for. All your dreams are here. So, naturally, Lucy goes through. And she goes through, and my first pet peeve is the author could have at least put the date at the head of the chapter for the next chapter, for the guy's chapter, for Andrew's chapter. But apparently we are to assume it's the same time frame as the first two books. Actually, it turns out to be a little bit later than that. About 10 years later passed since the first two books. So, but we don't find that out for a while. We don't get the date until, I believe, chapter 4, when Lucy questions Andrew and he gives her the information. But up until that point, we don't know what date or what time frame they're in. So that's one of my pet peeves. Lack of time frame for him. Then Andrew is suffering his own guilt. He was supposed to be guarding the castle, and he wasn't guarding the castle that night. He was getting busy with a lady, and because he wasn't at the castle, he blames himself because his thing burned down, or the house burned down, and his parents, his siblings, everybody died. So he's wallowing in self-pity, he's wallowing in his own grief, and he's destroying the world around him. He treats the world around him horribly. He has no compassion for anybody. You should not be enjoying life. You should be doing the work that you're supposed to be doing. You should not be sitting around. All this stuff comes from the external characters, learning that he's a laird, and he doesn't, you all gonna work for everything you have, and I'm not gonna give you any extra. And he's so busy wallowing in his own grief and torturing his own self. Although he's getting all the proper food and he's living in the nice house, where the people around him are not. And most of them remember when he was not this way, but he's been this way because he's wallowing in his own grief. And he's like, I gotta take care of the neighborhood. He's not doing a very good job of it, but in his head, he's responsible for these people. And he feels that, there's no time for recreation. You must do your job. You must provide. You must be plowing or whatever, you farming or doing stuff. You must not be sitting idly. And he's got this kid that lives with him that he takes care of, that he treats a little bit differently than everybody else, because the kid's parents also died as a result of the fire, and he's taking care of the kid. So, he finds Lucy. Lucy comes through. This guy sees her. He rescues her, takes her home, gives her a meal. And it turns out he's a connoisseur of horses and likes to help himself from horses. He takes his horses to market, which may or may not be his, to sell to feed his family. And he probably wouldn't have to do this if Mr. Harris here, the laird, wasn't so the way he was. And Andrew is out looking, and he runs into Irene, and Irene gives him this vague warning that he will, if he wants, his life will be saved. He will save somebody's life. She basically gives him the same spiel that she gave Lucy. And then she tells him where to get his horses from. And he's like, I never even told her about the horses. I never had that chance. But he goes and looks, and he finds Lucy. And he thinks that Lucy is working with Seamus and stealing the horses. So he arrests her, but he doesn't put her in the dungeon. He puts her in a room. And she's the first lady that he's ever brought home. And he had her put in the room. And because she was with the orchestra, and because it was a performance night, she's all dressed up. And she's in a dress. So she looks a little on the wealthier side of town. She doesn't look like a peasant. So, the maid comes in, and the housekeeper comes in, and they're automatically in love with Lucy, and they think she's the greatest, and she thinks she's going to be the one to get the laird out of this funk, his situation. And they very, very slowly get to know each other. And, then she, sees a flute, not a lute. Is that what it's called? A lute? But, what? What's your problem? You came over here. She starts playing it. She starts singing. She does a little Mozart. She stuns the crowd. They fall in love with her. The first, Andrew comes in with a black cloud over his head. What are you doing? At first it goes wrong. Then he eventually turns around and says it's okay. The instrument she was playing. Okay. Then, one of the dogs has had the puppies, and the kid that he's taking care of shows her the puppies, and then they take a tour of the castle, and then she teaches them how to play baseball, and Andrew is still wallowing in his own guilt. He eventually confesses to her what he was doing. This guy comes in, starts a little trouble, they get in a little fight, And Andrew tells her what the guy said was true, that he was out with the girl when the house burned down. So he's still wallowing in his own guilt. Then he gets carried away with the baseball game, and another town was harassed or ransacked or something. So he goes to save them and doesn't save all. And he comes home wallowing in his guilt again, and his guilt just builds up and builds up and builds up. So, Lucy and him finally have a get together, not completely, but mostly, and they're in love with each other. And this is another one of my big pet peeves. Okay? He says to her, yes, he does. He does say to her that he can't marry her because his clan comes first. He's married to his clan, and his clan comes first. Go get that one. So Lucy decides to go home. So she, it's at one point, Gretchen and her husband show up, and they talk to Lucy, and they're excited to see somebody from her own time again. And it's Gretchen that tells Lucy, all you have to do is go back to where that arch was and just walk back through it. So that's what Lucy does. She goes back and walks back through it and ends up back in her own time at her aunt and uncle's. Now, in Lucy's brain or whatever, she's been gone 9 months to a year. When she arrives at her aunt and uncle's, she's only been gone 3 weeks. And she never called them telling them she's coming back. Her aunt's like, we would have picked her up at the airport. And she doesn't have any luggage. And apparently the orchestra never called them. So she hangs out with them, starts looking for jobs, and goes back to singing on street corners again. And Andrew has a few moments with Irene again, and he decides to go through to the future. And it usually doesn't work that way. It doesn't usually work that they can go through, but he goes through, and he sees her, and she runs. He follows into a stream of traffic, gets hit by a car, ends up in the hospital, injured. Time passes by. He ends up back at the house with the aunt and uncle. The aunt and uncle like him. And Irene shows up and says, look, everything that I said or foretold has happened. Now you need to make up your mind. Are you going to stay here in the present, or are you going to go back to the past? And then there's some more conversation. Goes this way, that way. And maybe I should just leave the ending up to you. I have a whole bunch of pet peeves with it. I like it. I do like it. And there was one other author who did that, who did the same thing. Actually, 2 other authors that I've known. Cameron Moaning does it in one of her books, and for one set, not the whole set. But and another author does it for one of her characters too. But this is interesting, and I'd like to see how it carries out. I don't know if I'll read the next book or not. I may. What did I do with it? I just had it. I may go back and finish these. I haven't decided. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna. This series is gonna sit for a minute. I still want to look for that other series. So, anyways, if you could please check out Star Trek Next Generation recaps on Fridays, or Next Generation recaps. I still need to fix a couple of those. My favorite episodes are the ones that ended up garbled. JD Robb Saturdays, Unboxing Sundays, Flashback Monday, and my daily book reviews. Have a good one.